Thanks very much for being patient, guys. We've got most of the people signed in now. I can see more people arriving, but they're only going to miss the opening preamble by me. As you can see on the screen, my name is Ray Adams, and I pretty much do a similar job to most of you watching in today, I'm guessing. I'm a chartered financial planner. I'm ably assisted by Sol, who's French, came over here to study in Cardiff, and we were lucky enough to talk her into staying. So Sol's running the tech today, and she'll be answering all your chat questions. I've had to mute everybody because having background noise can influence the presentation quite significantly, so I do apologize about that. So only Sol and I can talk. But if you have any questions, just ask Sol on the chat. She'll answer most of them. And anything which is coming up as a common thing, we'll go through at the end, and I'll give those generic answers to everybody. I said I do the same job as you guys. So 15 years ago, I set up my own IFA firm called Niche in South Wales. Got about 34 staff there. I've taken more of a backseat role now, so I'm the chairman, and some of my long-standing staff are the managing director and compliance director, and they do the day-to-day running. I still have my own clients. I look after about 20 clients, so I still use the software with clients the same as you. But I spend most of my time now on CashCalc because I feel that I'm able to have an influence which is affecting the whole of the advice community in the UK, and I feel that's where my efforts are best spent at the moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, we've been running quite a few webinars. We're running a couple every day. Sol ran one earlier today about remote working and getting the client to do a lot of the work up front with the electronic fact find. And I'm going to have a dive into the cash flow modeling tool. Quite a few of you may have been using this for several years, and you may be very happy with it. But what's happened over the years, we've added lots of functionality. And you may well be using it in a particular way and not realize we've added the functionality. So I'm a strong believer in that software shouldn't need any training. I use an iPhone. I would imagine most of you have got some sort of smartphone. I've never been on a course to use the iPhone. I've never read the manual. I've never phoned the helpline. So to me, that's the epitome of what software should be. It should be intuitive, no training, just crack on and get it done. And that's my goal always for CashCalc. But the idea of this now is that we're all in lockdown. To me, this potentially can aid you working. It potentially breaks up the day as well. So I've instructed my team to run a couple of these every day, and they seem to be popular. We're having 130 people register on every one of my seminars last week and this week, so it's good. So we're gonna have a look at CashCalc in a couple of different ways. First case I'm going to look at is incredibly simple. No incomes, no expenditure, no lifetime cash flow plan. I'm literally just going to compare charges against charges, which is a bread and butter task for us as financial advisors. Typically a client might come to us and say, look, I've got these 3 pensions. I'd like to consolidate them. Ease of administration, blah, blah, blah. It is a regular, bread and butter bit of work. And typically we'd get the charges from the provider and we'd compare those charges, and we may put it together in a table of figures, and there's our presentation to the client. But for me, I like to look at pretty colors and graphs. They mean more to me than a table of numbers. So I'm just going to show you how you could potentially use CashCalc and just turn those numbers into an easy to understand comparison. And then I'm going to jump in then and look at maybe a more detailed cash flow, not hugely complicated. It was a real client which came to Niche, which one of my staff was dealing with. That member of staff came to me just to pick my brains about the advice. And when I looked at it, I said, oh, that would make quite a nice example for CashCalc. So, we just got the advisor to type the client up as an example. And I'll go through that today, and hopefully I can then just incorporate some of the new functionality we've added into CashCalc over the last few years, which not all of you may be aware of. So before I dive in to it, I just wanted to remind you of some of the things that I feel are incredibly useful as a financial advisor using software. And one of them is to get the client, wherever possible, to do the fact find ahead of the meeting, and they can do that electronically. Now, some of you may be sitting there saying, oh, my client won't do this. In fact, I had a conversation with an advisor yesterday. He said, oh, my client bank won't do it. I think the issue is more in the advisor's brain rather than the client's brain, because what COVID-19 and the lockdown situation has presented to us is actually clients will adapt and work in a different way if they're presented with an alternative way of working. I certainly know at my IFA firm niche, we have a 93% return rate from clients doing their own fact find ahead of the meeting, and that's both new clients and existing clients on review. In fact, I've literally, before I come on this call, just taken an inbound email from a part of Wales where somebody wants to become a client of niche. I forwarded that on to one of my staff to deal with. And I know that the first thing we'll do, we'll send them a data capture form and get them to do the work ahead of taking them on as clients. Okay. And my view is, if they're not prepared to do that as a new client inquiry, I'm not sure that I want to spend my time setting up a meeting and talking to them if they're not prepared to commit to a bit of time. From our MI within CashCalc, we know that it takes on average a client 20 minutes to do their fact find ahead of the meeting. What it massively does is get the client engaged in the process. We know that if they spend 20 minutes giving that information, they want some advice and they want to be part of the process. That's the first thing. Secondly, they've then thought about their financial situation. Many times I've gone to a client's house, or they've come to my office to consolidate their pensions, for example, and I've said to them, where'd you live? What's your house worth? Have you got a mortgage? And they, he might turn to her and say, who's our mortgage with? And she might say, well, I think it's Santander. How much is it? Because actually, they didn't know I was going to ask them all these holistic questions. They just thought I was going to talk about pensions, but obviously I need to know everything about them. So the clients hadn't thought about their full financial situation ahead of the meeting, whereas giving them the opportunity to do their fact find ahead of the meeting actually does encourage them to do that. Now, moving on to the second bit, which is accuracy of information. My name is Ray. I've just introduced myself, but you won't be surprised to know that my full name is Raymond. But actually, you may be surprised to know that for some reason, my mother decided to put an E on the end of Raymond. So I'm Raymond, not Raymond. I'm the only person in the United Kingdom, to my knowledge, with an E on the end of Raymond. So what it means is for 55 years of my life, pretty much most people spell my name incorrectly. So 50% of my utility bills are spelled incorrectly, because unless I make a point of saying to somebody, this is how to spell my name, they spell it incorrectly. Okay. Now, you won't be surprised to learn that if you send me an electronic form, I know how to spell my own name. So accuracy of information, dates of birth, addresses, postcodes, it's much easier if you get the client to do it. And the last one speaks for itself. And I mentioned at the start of this about integrations. If you get the client to put the data in, and you can then push that into your back office or push it into other software, the efficiency levels are huge. And again, at Niche, we estimate we save at least 2 hours of every single client, and potentially 4 hours in some clients as well. So enables us to be super efficient, make more profit, and drive costs down as well. Okay, so I'm going to just try and close this and go live now, guys. So this is exactly what we're going to do, and that is to go live. So not going to do a PowerPoint presentation now. We're just going to dive straight in and look at these cases. Now there's a tiny bit of a lag now. I'm screen sharing. So I've just logged into this simple client here now, and as you can see on the left, client's name is just example client, and I've called it consolidate pension, but I'd normally say, Bob Jones, or if you're in Wales, John Jones or something like that. So hopefully your eye is being drawn to the clock shape in the center with the yellow button at 12 o'clock, and in the center of the clock, the cash flow model. And the reason I've done that is because 82% of all of the use of CashCalc is of the onboarding or the cash flow model. So whilst we have over 25 calculators, and I'm really proud of those calculators because they were my idea when we built them, in reality, most people use CashCalc for the onboarding and cash flow model. So to me, a bit like the old McDonald's situation. You make the button at the top of the till the first one, so they save like half a second every customer, and it just improves your efficiency. So I've just tried to make things as efficient as possible. So if I just click on the onboarding, what you should see here is the option to send the client a data capture form. And you guys will see the pink button and the blue button. Above it is the access the new client portal. That's the one because I'm a beta tester on this particular demo account. Many of you might not see that button, but hopefully by the tail end of next week, the new portal will be live for you anyway. But I'm just quickly going to go into that. So the new portal is going to look like this. And what you can see there's a fact find. I sent that yesterday. I did that as a demo yesterday where we've just sent the client an email to do the fact find ahead of the meeting. And what your clients would actually see is they would see a fact find, something like this, which they could then fill in remotely. It's a dynamic fact find, which sounds a bit posh, but what it means is it reacts to what the client says. So rather than send the client a 58-page PDF editable, which is not applicable, not applicable, not applicable, because they've lived at their current address for more than 3 years, so previous address are irrelevant, or they've got no children, so striking through that. So we assume a very simple situation for a client, which means there's only about a dozen pages. But if the client says yes or no to certain things, it reacts, and the fact find then expands or contracts according to what they say. And hence we get a really, really good return rate. So I would really, really encourage you to utilize the onboarding process if you can. Okay, I said this was about cash flow modeling and I haven't got there yet, so let's crack in and get to cash flow modeling. So these are the thumbnails you can see there. On the top left is, you can see 3 different colors. That's the 3 pensions. Let me just go in there now. I've called it at the top here, current situation 3 pensions. And then in the center there, I've got consolidate pensions. So let's go and have a look at the savings pots. So there's the 3 savings pots which we've popped up: 45 grand, 30 grand, 25 grand. I'm sure you've done the maths as I've been saying it. They add up to 100 grand. So it's a nice, simple, easy to understand situation where the client's got 100 grand in pensions spread across 3 pensions. As you can see with the top one there, it just says linear growth of 5%. So I've just assumed mid growth rates. All I'm trying to do here is compare charges for charges, not looking at any variable returns or anything. So just trying to show what's the charges of these current 3 pensions. So as you can see there, all 3 pensions have got 5% linear growth. But if you then, on the left-hand side, you can look at charges and fees. And you can see the ongoing charges. I've wrapped them up 2.3, 2.6, 1.7 as advised by the providers. So we've just put them in. There's no ongoing advice for any of these pensions, so it's just the fund and platform charges or the rolled up charges for these particular cases. Now, what you can do once you've done that is that you've already built this forecast, which is going to take you literally 2 minutes, because as I can see there, there's nothing in incomes expenditures because I'm just comparing charges for charges. But all you need to do is press the top, that plus button, saying create a forecast or clone this one. So we just clone the forecast. There's an identical copy, and then you can just go in and make 1 or 2 changes. The changes I've made is I've gone and deleted 2 of the pensions, and I've renamed the one Advise the Platform. So if you're putting it on Transact or Royal London or Aviva, you just call it, Transact Platform. You can then go in there, and I've left it now as 5% linear return because I'm comparing like for like. All we need to do then is go and make the other change, which is popping down to the charges section. And what you can see now at the bottom, I've put in an advisor charge of £1,000. So that's the initial charge. And then I've put the fund charges and I've broken them down to the platform charge of 0.25, the fund charges of 0.36, and then an ongoing advisor fee of 0.5%. What you could do is you could make that, I'm going to quickly show you, just press in the edit button, and you can see you can call the charge whatever you want. I've typed in ongoing advisor charge, and as you can see, the next box down is either a monetary amount or a percentage. It could be a one-off every year, or you can put a custom charge in there if you want to do quarterly, whatever you want. So it's very easy for you to use. However you want to deliver your advice. Probably a good point for me to say is when I designed CashCalc is that I feel software should help you do your job and be a tool in your toolbox to deliver the advice you want to deliver. I don't believe that software should dictate to you how you deliver that advice. To me, that's the tail wagging the dog. So CashCalc, we try and make it as flexible enough for you to use it how you want to use it. So anyway, let's go and have a look at that. So moving on to the cash flow outputs now. I did say to you this was an incredibly simple situation. So there's the first scenario with the 45 grand, 30 grand, and 25 grand pensions. But if you can see in that dialog box which has popped up in the top right hand corner, it's got the total amount as well. So it's 100,000. So even though the big number on the left tells you how much is in that particular pot, whatever's in the client's portfolio, total portfolio, is totted up on the right hand side. So as you can see, it's 100 grand there, and at 65, it's 103,000. And if you just scroll down, actually there's some high level figures there as well at the bottom to help you. So if I go back to the start where it's worth 100,000, and I look at the consolidated pension, which we've got slightly lower charges and ongoing advice, there's the 100,000 at start. But now at age 65, it's 121 grand. And again, if you look at the bottom, there's some high level figures, which are now much higher than the last scenario. But I'm not sure whether you're aware, there's a button up in the top right hand corner. I try and make CashCalc as simple to use as possible, but sometimes, when we're used to seeing things, we don't see new buttons when appear. And there's a button there saying compare forecasts. And hopefully that compare forecast has just popped up for you there now. And what you can see now is that you can compare any one of the forecasts that you've built. So, and you can just mouse there live for the client, 100 grand there, 100 grand there. You can go to age 65, 121, and 103. Remember, look for your eye in the top right-hand corner. So you can compare forecasts side by side and just demonstrate to the client. You can have a maximized scale there, which means this using the full amount of the screen, or consistent scale. So actually now as a consistent scale, you can see that the top one is much lower, much higher than the bottom graph, because on the maximized, it's just filled up the screen to show you. But, you can use it to demonstrate the advice, however you want to the client. And you could also do this part where you show them the money in versus money out. But actually on this scenario, I've had no income and expenditure. It's just a very simple comparison of charges. I did say to you that the first cash flow I was going to use was incredibly simple. Some of you might be sitting there and saying, well, that's all well and good, Ray, because you've compared lower charges, but my proposition actually sometimes is more expensive charges because we're going to do, some more asset allocation, and we're going to be seeking much better returns. Well, again, that's dead easy to do. There's a button on the top right-hand corner called Clone Forecast, or again, you can press the plus button and does the same thing. And actually, you could go in and do something different. So on the savings pots now, on the last one I was showing exact like for like, but in this particular one now, you can see the advisor platform there. What I've actually put in there is not a linear return of 5%. What I've actually done is a variable return. And we've got 3 standard benchmarks in there, which we bring in from an analytics tool of cautious, balanced, and adventurous. But as you can see at the bottom, there's a custom template and there's a RAID test portfolio. I built that RAID test portfolio yesterday as a demo, and it literally took me 3 minutes. So you guys can build your own model portfolios, or if you use Royal London governed portfolios or Aviva set portfolios, you can actually just pre-put them in there so they're always available as drop downs for you. But just for speed today, I'm going to do that. Rather than a 5% linear, there's now 5.76 of variable returns. And then if you go into the charges, you know, what we've done now is put the charges up to advisor charge to 1% a year, and I've put the fund charge up to 0.8. So actually, if you add them together now, the charges now are pretty much more expensive than the last one. You've got an initial charge as well, but you're now demonstrating better returns, albeit with some sequencing of risk of growth there. And what you can now see, there's your 100 grand to start. What we've brought in with the analytics tool means that the pension immediately dropped to 83,000. So if you look on that one there, you can see the opening performance was minus 12.5%. So I guess most of you sat there would be saying that's a bad start for an investment with a new client. But what you can see then is at 65 now, 140 grand. So let's go back and do the quick compare forecasts again. And now we're going to compare their current situation. Their current situation there with the one you've got, and you can see, well, there you go, there's 140 there, you know, comparing down here at 103. So again, very simple demonstration there, guys, of how you can use CashCalc to however you want to use it. Okay. So that's definitely not a lifetime cash flow plan. It's just comparing of charges. But hopefully in that situation, you know, you might not have known about the compare forecast bit or the changing of charges. Okay, what I'm going to look at now is the other cash flow. Again, what we've done now, we've got exactly the same client dashboard for you. You can see this time on the left-hand side, it's a husband and wife situation. He's 58, she's 55. We call these new example client. Let's go in and have a look at these. Okay, so we've got the thumbnails on screen now in front of us. Top left-hand corner, you can see pre-advice, old provider. And at top right-hand side, you can see post-advice, new provider. So let's go in and have a look at this client, and they've done fairly well. They were nice clients to us. When you go into CashCalc, you normally land initially on the assumptions page. So it's the assumptions of inflation and when the forecast ends. We've got it to default to 100, but you can change your defaults to whatever. We go up to 110, and that's the age of the first client. So if you've got, you know, a disparity in the age of clients, if you put your younger client first and your older client second, then you could potentially take your forecast up to 120, 130 years of age if you want to. Okay. At the bottom, you can see something called events and timeline. I don't know whether you guys have used that, but this is something that we built directly in response to feedback from people. And if I just quickly show you, these clients were interested in long-term care or concerned about long-term care. I'll cover it later, but I'm showing you how easy it could be. So you could literally just drag other down there, just change that to long-term care, and then just save that. Okay, and then you can set timelines on there. You could say, well, mortality there, I think is going to be at 93, and then you could literally just save that. By adding them into the timeline, if I take you over in 1 second to the incomes and expenditures, and if you were to just look at any one of their expenditures, if I just go and change their essential expenditure a second, what you can do, the end period now, as well as being able to pick a set age, at the top you can see, you can also end it on one of the timeline events that you've added into there. Sorry, I clicked somewhere else then just to check the time lag between what I'm seeing and you're seeing. And as I clicked it, it did away with the it did away with those things at the top. So you can see that you can set timelines on there. Now the advantage of that, you could put on there school fees between X age and X age. But the advantage of doing, if you set it to the timeline rather than the age, so if I use lifetime long-term care as an example, 82, if you just select age 82, it's always on 82. But if you accept the timeline, I'll show you what you can do now. You can literally go back to either the stress testing or the assumptions, and you can literally just drag the lifetime care to age 72, and it immediately behind the scenes changes when the incomes stop or expenditure starts to coincide with that. So it's really, really, really useful, guys. And if you haven't done it, I'd urge you to do it. I'm just for the minute going to get rid of them because I don't want them on this forecast. I just wanted to show you how easy it was to put them and how easy it is to delete them. Okay. So if I go to the incomes and expenditures to show you a little bit about this client. So Mr. is an accountant, wants to work for another 2 years, and his wife is, while she's 3 years younger, she's going to retire at the same time. So she'll be 57, but she'll be retiring when he's 60. So we've put down to take her small NHSDB. She, it's an preserved pension, and with actuarial reduction, it's going to be £1,500 a year when she takes it, with 4.5 grand tax-free cash, and then they're both going to get full state pensions. And then in retirement, just to keep the lights on and the food on the table, it costs them about £1,500 a month. But in general, the clients spend another £1,000 just on day-to-day living, so their general expenditure is £2,500 a month. Now you can go in and be completely detailed if you want to, or for some clients they just say, look, I've looked at my bank statement and we normally spend about 2.5 grand a month, and my direct debits are £1,500 a month. So you can do it as detailed or as loose as you want to with the client. Now these particular clients said, look, we like to change our car every 5 years and it costs us about 12 grand. But what they said is, look, we really, really want to enjoy our retirement when we finish at 60. So we've added, literally enjoying retirement, £2,000 a month. So that's 24 grand a year for 20 years spending on their retirement. And that, if you see below that as well, they want to spend 60 grand on a round the world cruise when they actually retire. In Wales, that wouldn't be a round the world cruise. That would be go and watch the British and Irish Lions play rugby in the Southern Hemisphere somewhere. That seems to be a common goal in Wales. So let's have a look at what clients these clients have built up. They've done really well. They don't keep that much in their current accounts. There's £1,000 there, but Mrs. has got 80,000 in various investments in her name, and Mr.'s got 950 grand in a pension, and Mrs. has got 250 grand in a pension. And as you can see in the center of the screen, we've put down 4% linear growth. The clients have left them in their old pensions. And if I take you onto the left-hand side of charges, the charges on them were pretty much 2% across the board. So, as you know, CashCalc does everything in today's terms. So if I was to just open up this, let me just check you've got the same lag as me. Yeah, as you can see, we've put a 4% return, and against inflation, it's 1.5% above inflation. And I've already shown you that the charges built into these investments are 2%. So actually, these pensions are not even keeping pace with inflation and charges. So if I go to the cash flow model, there's Mr.'s £950,000 pension, whereas next year in real terms is going to be worth 947,000, and then the year after 942. So it's not even keeping pace with inflation. However, having said that, they've done so well that it's probably on their desired expenditure, their money's going to last them until their 90s. So let me go and have a look at the money in versus money out. So on the money in versus money out, I don't know whether you are aware of these. What you've got is the black line going across there. There it is in retirement from year 80 onwards. That is their £2,500 a month net. That's what they're pretty much spending. And then what you can see then, the 54,000 is the extra £2,000 a month they want to spend doing joining retirement, and little spikes are where they're changing the car. And then the big spike at the start there is they want to achieve the silver anniversary cruise. So the black line is their expenditure line, and all of the colors below that are their known incomes up to that point. So if I take it down to the purple one, what you can see that's Mr. State Pension, and the turquoise one is Mrs. State Pension. So they're their known incomes. And the little yellow one right at the bottom is Mrs. DB NHS pension. So you can start building up. Something I haven't shown anybody, I don't know whether you're aware, if you actually press click some of these colors, it'll actually start taking away the incomes. So if I quickly show you, you could take away that income, take away that income, take away that income. And actually, you could then just start adding them back in, just by clicking them back in like this. So actually, you can, in front of the client, you could literally just click in and demonstrate what incomes they've got, and you could bring them in one at a time. So it then slowly comes up to their expenditure line. So I'm not sure whether you're aware of that, and this is the first time I've actually showed this on a demo. We've had this functionality for a few years, but sometimes I forget to show you exactly what the system can do. So if I quickly show you how you can very easily personalize a presentation for the client. Now, I've already explained that the client here has got £1,500 DB income, but you and I know she's finishing work at 57. The personal allowance is 12.5 grand, and she's only got £1,500 of a fixed income, so she can draw another £11,000 tax-free up to a personal allowance. So that's in addition to a tax-free cash. That's just using a personal allowance. So actually, you can just type in there a drawdown from the pension, and there it is on screen, tax-free up to personal allowance, and just type that in. You literally just go to contributions and withdrawals. Hopefully you've got that on your screen in front of you now. Let me just check it. You've got the lag. There it is there. Yeah. And I've literally just typed at the top, tax-free up to the personal allowance, Mrs. every year, 11,000. When her husband is 60 and husband is 70, so that's between her at 57 finishing work and when her state pension kicks in. And what's the tax rate? 0. That easy. So you're taking into account tax there, and you've really personalized it and you've showed it to the client. Really, really simple. And then what you can do, if I take you back to the money in versus money out, you can see with the husband, he's got no other income as soon as he finishes, so he's got the full 12,500 tax allowance. And all I've done then is when his state pension kicks in, he can now draw, 3,733 from his pension tax-free. So you can do a before state pension and an after state pension. And from my experience, sitting with the client and demonstrating this to them in a meeting and showing this, the clients there are really getting it where you're saying, yeah, that's the most tax efficient way of doing it. Really, really, really simple. So with these clients, even if they take no advice from you, they pretty much kind of afford to achieve their goals because their money doesn't run out until their 90s. But of course, what they are worried about was long-term care. So you're using the opportunity to say, well, look, you're not even keeping pace with inflation. What I'm going to recommend is that we give you some advice and we review these investments, maybe move them onto a new platform and review the charging structure. So if you look at this now, we've still got the 3 pots of investments. But if you can draw your eye to the center now, rather than being linear returns of 4%, we put them into that mixed benchmark cautious, which we know was 5.7% return. You could go in and just have a quick look. There it is there, 5.76%, so 3.26 above inflation. So if we go over onto the charges now, what we've done is we've personalized the charges. The platform, as you can see at the top, 0.25. The fund charges of 0.22, and we've applied those charges to all the pots. And what you can see at the bottom is that we put an advisor fee on annually, and we've taken that from the big pension, £5 a year. You know, you guys may work on an ad valorem basis, but that's fine. You can literally just go on there and just select at the top right hand there percentage every year, so you can just change it to a percentage. And then you can see at the bottom we've done an initial charge, and we've chosen to do that initial charge against Mrs.'s pension. But again, you've got the flexibility to do what you want. You could share it across all of them if you wished. So what you can see now is we've got the specific charges. If we go to the cash flow model now, rather than the clients running out of money in their 90s, we've got it starting at 950, drop in slightly at the start because the opener was the minus 12.51, but there's only a partial year in year one because it goes to the next birthday. So even though it was a minus 12.51, because the year was nearly over, the effective rate was literally just a small minus. Then we've got a bit of a positive the next year, and you can see then the result is the client can afford to achieve all their goals, and they got significant amount of money still left over. So we're showing them the benefits of taking advice, doing some proper asset allocation, and moving their pensions and changing the charging structure. Now, what I'm going to show you a little bit now is stress testing. If I go on to the stress test, what you can see there now is a miniature view of what was just on the screen. Just check that the lag is the same yet. You're looking at the same as me. On the right-hand side is the mixed benchmark and the ups and downs. So you can see there was already several occasions where there were negative returns. But if you wanted to, you could throw another stock market event into there. So top left is you've got simulate market event. We've got some pre-built ones in there. And at the top, we've got the UK index market crash. That's no recovery. So that's literally just 35% drop. And then below that, you've got the crash and recovery. So we've got the data up to 2012. So you could save that. Or at the bottom, you can see you can build your own. And that COVID-19 one, I built that yesterday doing this exact presentation. It took me 2 minutes. I'll show you how to do it in a second. What you can do, let's have a look at the COVID-19 one. Let's apply that. Let's look at a positive period. You know, there's age 55 as a positive there. So if I just throw that onto age 65, apply it to all of the equity investments the clients have got, run the simulation. And what should have appeared on your screen there is age 65, rather than being a positive, is now thrown into a 25% negative. Let me just check you're looking at the same screen as me. Yep, you are. So having run that simulation, you can apply that. And if you watch the graph now should change in front of our eyes, and you can see the big drop there, bang, but the clients still don't run out of money. And that COVID-19 drop was a drop without recovery. So to me, that's a capacity for loss test, bang. If you took this haircut, there you can see there's 1.1 million dropping down to just over $750,000 with no recovery. It just then carries on for the normal benchmark. I'm going to quickly remove that market event for a second. That's how easy it is to remove it and put it back to normal. I said a few minutes ago, I built that yesterday. I'm going to show you how to do it. If you just go to my account at the top. So there's your my account. Down on the left-hand side, there's variable growth templates and asset allocation templates. Before I do the variable templates where I'm going to work on, I'm just going to quickly show the asset allocation one. This is something which we designed to go with the stochastic modeler, the Monte Carlo tool. And literally you can just go in and build your own. This was one we built for people who were using the DFM Taten. So we just got the past performance, the asset allocation of the Taten tracker, and we just put it in there and replicated that. And what you can see then is that asset allocation, again, bringing it in from the analytics tool, had minimums and maximums of -20 plus 38, an average 7.78. So you could go and build your own. So if I quickly show you what's, there's a custom one. Let me just do that custom. There's one there, which has got 75% cash. And as you can see, there's a minus of 0.5 and a plus of 12 with an average of 2.93. Now I quickly just go and say, well, let's change the cash to 5%, but actually go up and change the, the Asia Pacific to 75% and update that. So instantaneously now it's looked at the past performance of that asset allocation and a much more volatile with a minus 28 and a plus 83, averaging 11%, much more volatile. So you can go and build your own. What I want to draw your eye to is if you look at the top right hand side of this dialog box, it says export as a variable growth template. So if you've actually built this to primarily use with the Monte Carlo, you could say, actually, I want to use that in the cash flow. And having done that, it'll just send it over to the variable templates and do the variable templates. What you can see there at the top, make sure you've got the same lag as me. Yeah, you're at the top, is the mixed benchmark, cautious, balanced, adventurous, which we brought in for everybody. And you can see that's the Ray test portfolio I did yesterday. But if I quickly show you, you can go in and we'll call this Ray 2. Whatever your back test is, if you've got 50 years, you can put 50 years in if you want. If you've got 10 years, you can do that. Just for speed, let's say we've got 7 years minus 9, plus 9.74, goes to 2 decimal places. So I'm just making this up, guys, just to show you that how you can do it. So in 2 minutes, as long as you've just got the past performance with you, you can just build that template. You can also at the bottom then look and say, well, I want to use my own stress testing. So if you work for a company called ABC Financial Services, you could use the ABC 30% drop COVID-19. And you say, well, look, I want to just do a minus 30. So there's minus 30. And you could say, well, I don't want any recovery. So literally you just do no recovery and just make it a 2-year forecast. Or you could say, well, actually, I want it to recover over the next few years. So it's gonna bounce back then. And in fact, then it's going to probably get up slightly higher. So let me just show you, we've just done that stress test. If I take you back to the client we were working on, just logging back into that client. And if we go and have a look at the stress testing we were just doing, go to the stress testing, simulate market event, just check that you've caught up with me. Yeah, simulate the market event. And in the drop down box now is the ABC 30% drop COVID-19, which I've just built 2 minutes ago. And you could just do that, set that at age 65. Which ones? We're going to do it to those 3 pots there, run the simulation, and there's the 30% drop with a bit of a recovery as well. And you could just apply that to the portfolio. So you could go in and build, your 10%, 15, 20% drop. I quickly show you, go back and look at one of the pots. Let's just edit Mrs.'s investments. And in the benchmarks now, you can see there's the Ray 2 portfolio, which I just built 2 minutes ago. And if you want to do, you could look at that. And there's the one I built a few minutes ago. And because we only had 7 years of history, it's just repeated itself because there's more than 7 years to go in retirement. So hopefully you can see that you can build your own portfolios really simply. If I take you back to this, I want to just show you a couple of other things. So let's simulate a market event. Let's do a stock market crash with no recovery. We're going to do that at age 65. And we're going to run that simulation and apply those changes. Bang. Big change. What we could do then is that we could do other things you can apply. So let me quickly just go and show you something else. These clients said they were concerned about long-term care. So what I've done is that we added onto that timeline a long-term care there. And if you go and look at the incomes and expenditures, we've actually put long-term care at £4,000 a month. Now, what we know is that before the clients had taken advice from us, they were potentially running out of money in their 90s. But after the advice, they were very comfortable off. And this is a scenario here now where we've applied the long-term care, but the clients still don't run out of money. And what you can do is, if I quickly show you now, just for this, if you click and drag that long-term care, which I've linked £4,000 a month to, and move it across to, let's say, age 70. I know that sounds a bit ridiculous because we've got them spending money at 70, but that just instantaneously on the screen should have just shown you the clients changing. Let me just do that again. So if we drag that to age 80, now the clients don't run out of money. Let me just drag it back to 72. So behind the scenes, CashCalc is stopping the income, starting the expenditure, whatever you've linked to that timeline. Okay, so you can do some stress testing using the timeline if you want to. What I'm going to now show you whilst we're on this page, because in this situation the clients run out of money. At the top we've got simulate market event, but next to it we've got a button saying meet a goal. Again, we built this directly in response to feedback from advisors. You know, people were saying to me, look, you know, clients are not spending enough money. I want to encourage them to spend money. Or the clients are not quite achieving their goals with 4% return. What do they need to get? So you could say, well, look, in this situation, I don't want the clients to run out of money. We can adjust the growth or do an injection of capital or adjust how much money they're spending, you know, and that could mean spending more money, you know, because they're never going to run out of money and their money's just going up. So you could use this meter goal to say, look, you could spend 10 grand a year more. But I'm just going to show you adjust growth. You can either do that against one savings pot or all of them. So I'm going to do it across all of them and run that simulation. What CashCalc is doing now is checking all the scenarios and saying, well, look, you know, in this situation where we dragged the lifetime, so the long-term care to age 72 and suddenly the clients run out of money, well, their portfolios would need to grow by 8.3% a year for them not to run out of money. You could go back to the inputs and say, well, I now want to see this, but I only want to adjust one pot, not all three of them. It's now looking at them and saying, well, how much does each individual pot needs to grow by if only that one did better? So this is a, you know, a much more detailed look at this now. Okay, just running that behind the scenes, guys. And it's on my screen, but I don't think it's on yours. There it is now. And now you're saying, look, you know, the old expensive small 80,000 investment would have to grow by 16% a year because obviously it's a small investment. And then this enables you just to have conversations with clients. Now, I know you might think this is a bit of a ridiculous expected returns, but all I'm trying to demonstrate to you here is that you can do lots of little meter goal scenarios. I find it incredibly useful for clients where clients say to me, oh, I'd like to help my kids out, but I'm, you know, I don't know whether we can afford it. So what you can do is literally say, well, I never want my savings pots to be below 250,000 at age, let's say 90. And then you can do that by either adjusting growth or injection of capital, lump sum. So there's lots of things you can do, and you can use this to say, how much money can I give away and still hit a particular portfolio size? There's lots and lots of options you've got here, guys, to use it. Now, one other thing very quickly, if you just go down to the yearly breakdown, I don't know whether you've ever looked at this. This is the year-by-year breakdown, and you can just click on any one of those years to expand it. And immediately you can see everything which is happening in that year. The current account, what's in there at the start of the year, what's in there at the end of the year, what charges are coming out, if they need to dip into the pension, you know, whether that pension is coming out and being grossed up. So lots and lots and lots of information available for you. If I come back to the cash flow model a second, and go to money in versus money out. Let me just check you've got the same on screen as me. What you can see, the gray area is where there's a deficit between their incomes and what they want to expend. And you can see that the system has already said, look, we need to take 29 grand and there's 29 grand available in the current account, so we're going to take it for that. And it'll keep doing that until that pot runs out. And as you can see, it's now taking it from the pension, and what you can see there is it's grossing up as well. So if it's taking 52 grand, it's grossing up to 60. And on that one there, you can see the one pot has run out. So it's then taking a bit from the one pot and a bit from the other pot. And you can set it to gross up by 20% or 40% or whatever you want. But just for me to wrap up, guys, there's the word symbol. I say it all the time. To me, I've done lots and lots of client meetings using CashCalc, and there's been light bulb moments for clients, and clients have made life-changing decisions about retiring early or giving kids to their family or doing things on their bucket list. And I've never once had a client say to me, "That's brilliant, Ray, but next time can you make the cash flow more detailed?" No one's asked me ever to make it more detailed. Now, we as advisors love the numbers, and we think the clients then love the numbers. Don't get me wrong, we have the odd client who, maybe an accountant or a little bit more anal, but in general, clients just like the simplicity. And be realistic about what you do, and try not to make it too complicated. Otherwise the client's eyes will just glaze over. And if you can, get some costings. If the client says, "Look, I want to go on that cruise," how much is that going to cost you? Well, I don't know. Well, is it going to be 5 grand? Oh, more than that. Is it going to be 100 grand? Oh, no, that much. It doesn't take long just by questioning the client to find out, and then the cash flow becomes much more personalized to the client. And the clients, if you've got them to do the fact find ahead and you've engaged them, it really helps your relationship with the client. Look, I'm not telling anybody how to do the job. I'm not trying to create a cult and say you've got to do this. I just want CashCalc to be a tool in your arsenal that you can, have a great relationship with your client. And I've said that phrase earlier, number 6. It's not even my phrase. I nicked that. I heard Rory Percival say it. And it is better to be approximately right than precisely wrong. Sometimes we can try and overanalyze things. And I don't think that's that necessary. And that's me done, guys. So we've literally just run over an hour. I do apologize for that. Hey guys, and remember, family is the most important at the moment. And good luck with business, and please stay safe. Thanks for listening, guys.